Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. This is a tough one to get through the YouTube system. So I'm speaking directly to my human reviewers. YouTube human reviewer, I have an actual lawyer in this video breaking down what's happening currently to R. Kelly while he's on trial. We avoided any potentially offensive keywords. No community guidelines were broken. I don't understand why this video keeps getting limited in your system. I hope you will now check this video out again. I've removed any questionable word or any word we said. I've muted them. I apologize to my viewers. Sadly, this platform won't let us have serious conversations about news topics. There's nothing against any of the guidelines. It's absurd that you keep limiting videos like this. This is huge news, and these are topics that need to be shared. You put music videos out there that are far worse. I don't understand this hypocrisy. I hope, human reviewer, you will respect this video as news with an actual lawyer that says no offensive language and let this video get a wide release. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore, and this is a topic I've avoided, I'll be honest. It's a topic I've avoided because it's so hard to talk about with the YouTube people allowing us to. Keywords and things will have to be talked around. We'll have to be careful here. But I really wanted to start talking about this R. Kelly case because it's kind of horrific. And I think a lot of people still are confused or maybe not wanting to do the homework on this case to understand what's going on. So I'm so grateful for Christopher Meltzer. He is back here to help wade through this grossness and craziness to help us try to figure out what's going on here. Christopher, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Andy, for having me on.
Do you agree this is just a complicated one to discuss? Obviously, keywords on this platform, but also there's just so much to go through. Do you share sort of? I will show my cards. I don't trust this guy. I don't like this guy. Usually, I always like to give the benefit of the doubt right away, you know, innocent until proven guilty. But it seems like there's just so much that it's really hard for me to ignore. And while I'm always very open and try to hear all sides, on this one, I've just seen enough about R. Kelly that I get the, you know what I mean? I just feel dirty with this guy. Do you get that vibe as well?
Well, that's right. I mean, we always want to give the benefit of the doubt to anyone, especially something so serious. But this has been going on for 25 years. There's been allegations going back that we're going to talk about all the way to the 90s. So this is not, you know, one person coming up here saying something happened to me. This is a whole bunch of people saying similar things over lots of period of time, people who don't even know each other. So it's not like somebody who has a grudge against him or is trying to shake him down for some money that, you know, maybe we just don't know what their intentions are. This is too many allegations, too many people over too long of a period for really it not to be true.
But it's sort of, to me, one of the worst crimes there are. And so when I hear that, I pay more attention, and I feel like there's already evidence that he's guilty of that. Aaliyah is the example number one, which we'll get to. He married her, which was just weird and not okay. And so I want to break down sort of there's a New York Times here, sort of a timeline of things. In 1996 through 2002, 4 separate women filed lawsuits, Christopher, against R. Kelly. In December 1996, Tiffany Tia Hawkins, who was in high school, sued for $10 million. And Chicago Sun, I got to be careful with these words. There were more after that. Tracy Sampson in 2001 filed against. Same accusations, same bracket of years. 2002, 2 more lawsuits. Woman, again, same things, saying they were impregnated, and more accusations I can't say out loud. Terrible stuff. And then there was a lot of another one who said there was a videotape. And these cases were reported on by the Chicago media. All of both were settled outside of the court. All of these cases, Christopher, were settled out of court, which to me would be like a red flag of like, oh, well, wait, these are just, you know, liars. They're just trying to get some fame, some notoriety. Does that mean something that they settled out of court? What is your 2 cents on that as from a lawyer perspective?
Well, I mean, we encourage people to settle cases and not go forward with them, and that's the right thing to do. However, the concern here is in these particular type of actions or allegations is that the settlement, which is often done confidentially, could allow this person to go on and do the same thing to other people. And that's why some states like California have now had a law saying we cannot do these confidential settlements, that these settlements, the agreements would be subject to public access, because we're seeing, and what we're going to be talking about here with R. Kelly, this guy is a predator, and he is identifying a certain type of lady to victimize, and unfortunately was able to do that for a very long time without any consequence. And had this information been taken more seriously, publicized more earlier on, other people could have been protected.
Yeah, I mean, so again, it's hard to deny also Aaliyah, who I did a video recently, a wonderful singer, actor who we lost way too early. Aaliyah was when they met, and were married. In Surviving R. Kelly, Demetra Stream, a former personal assistant for R. Kelly, said, "I had papers forged for them, but it wasn't a proper marriage." Now, Christopher, you were telling me earlier, that sort of could have been done to protect him in a way, so she couldn't even, do any sort of lawsuits, correct?
That's right. And in this current trial, this will be discussed in this current trial, but there's an allegation that the marriage wasn't, forged of love, that there's legal protection in a marriage. There's what's called a spousal privilege. One spouse cannot be called as a witness against the other, except for certain claims that spouses are making against each other. So if they were married, that would then prevent her from being called as a witness against him. So that is at least an allegation that's been raised, or a theory that's been raised, as to why he wanted to marry her when she was not of marrying age.
Right, and so on 2002, during the opening ceremonies of the Winter Olympics, around that same time is when a Chicago reporter received a videotape, an alleged videotape that you guys probably know about. He's been made fun of, but it's not really funny in my opinion, about actions that were happening. And that's when he was indicted by a grand jury on 21 serious counts in Chicago, based off that videotape, the information that came forward. It took 5 more years to go to trial. Mr. Kelly pleaded not guilty, and in June 2008, after less than a full day of deliberations, a jury acquitted him of all charges. This is where I get more frustrated. There's video evidence. There's clear evidence that Aaliyah was, we know how, etc. But I guess because they couldn't exactly prove the times, and because some of these other women settled, they weren't able to put him away. How can that happen?
So my understanding, in the 2008 criminal case, it involved an allegation involving one particular lady who was underage, and there was a tape involved, but that person would not cooperate with authorities. So without her testimony and cooperation, the government wasn't able to make their case. So the jury came back with a not guilty finding, which does not mean innocent. It doesn't mean that the person never committed the act. What not guilty means is the prosecution failed to produce enough evidence to convince the jury beyond a reasonable doubt that the act was committed. So there's a fine but important distinction between innocence and not guilty. So and that's what's hard in these cases. We do see the initial accusers not faring well, that they're shamed in the media, they're not believed, and it's only through the magnitude that we're seeing now of a bunch of people coming forward that then people finally say, "Oh, this must be happening." But how many people need to suffer until we learn or believe?
Right, and so it wasn't until 2017, right around the time of Me Too and everything else that was happening, that things really started to take more weight in this case. And in fact, there was another article where this DeRogatis was publishing this explosive article, Inside the Pied Piper of R&B's Cult, with BuzzFeed. #Mute R. Kelly began to draw attention, and this is when we learned of these sort of disturbing allegations of women, a lot of them living with him and being controlled every aspect of their life, and that's when things sort of took a dark, even darker direction. At that point, fast forward, that's when the Surviving R. Kelly documentary also dropped, where we learned a lot more information. A lot of people stepped forward. Now, a lot of supporters. There are a lot of supporters out there of R. Kelly, Christopher. Any celebrity always has their supporters, no matter what. In this case, a lot of them sort of out there shaming and saying they knew what they were in for. All this stuff seemingly is a lot of the defense, or they're liars. But I have trouble sort of understanding how to defend any of this action. The clear people who aren't of age, and then the weird controlling behavior, which we're only learning more and more about, which clearly they're constantly trying. Well, he was a celebrity. He was. They use the excuse that he's illiterate as one of the reasons. One of the articles I read about the testimony this week, that well, he's different. It's harder for him to put things together. This is all crazy. Like that. The Surviving R. Kelly documentary had some insane allegations. All of this is piling up, and so that's when things. Clearly more people were speaking forward, that it became harder to ignore.
So how I look at this is, this guy's a predator, but he's using his fame to attract the prey. And it's no different than Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, Danny Masterson, you name it. You go through the list. The commonality there is you have a famous, powerful person who people want to be around. They want favors from, and the predator knows that. That's their game. So now these people come into their orbit, and they are then find themselves in this type of situation, these things happening to them. And then when they go to complain, the predator then comes out and says, oh, well, they're just angry at me because I said they didn't have talent and I wouldn't help their career, and now they're lashing out and trying to hurt me. So this is all set up and pre-planned. And that's what allows them to get away with it, is having the access to these people, having the excuse for it, having others like the authorities who will believe them. And it only comes from a lot of time and a lot of people coming forward that we finally say, no, this isn't possible to believe R. Kelly anymore, that this cannot be true. These people, when we're talking about 25 plus years of history here, there's no way that these people even know each other. They couldn't. How could they coordinate something over 25 years? This is not even possible.
Long story short, to fast forward the timeline and get to what's happening this week, there are now, 10 new counts of aggravated criminal charges, and ranges of things are not good, and they're not okay. In July 29th, 5 months after they charged the singer, was arrested again, this time by federal prosecutors who announced a 13-count indictment that included some really awful stuff. To me, some of the worst charges you can get. They unsealed a separate indictment, which has began this Monday with jury selection for one count of racketeering and 8 counts of violating the Mann Act. The Mann Act sort of is, again, those topics we can't talk about, but doing that with the people's, but across state lines. Is that the quickest way to sort of sum that up, Christopher?
Yeah, so this trial's been going on for a bit, and it's on the racketeering charge that he's undergoing this trial, and the other charges are on hold right now until this one's over with. And it's unusual to have racketeering as a charge for this type of conduct. Usually we see, one person coming forward, or maybe 2 or 3 people coming forward with very specific incidents that are being charged. Here they're saying he's running a criminal enterprise.
Right.
That involves doing all these things that he's alleged to have done. So this is highly unusual. I actually know of no case where something like this has been charged, where they're saying that this is not an isolated couple incidents. This is an enterprise, meaning something that he came up with as a plan to do to many people over a period of time with a lot of help from enablers to put together all of this, the house, the rules, all of this stuff to commit these acts. So it's a very unusual prosecution that they're doing. I think that they're doing it that way so they can talk about a lot more things. So in a normal prosecution, you have the accused, and then you have a person that's alleged to have been harmed. And the criminal judge is going to only allow evidence about that incident and that person. And it's very limited. You can't get into character evidence. You can't get into other prior incidents without a big fight, because this is not viewed as fair against the accused. But when you go after a racketeering charge, well, by nature, it involves a long history of coordinated effort involving lots of people. And that's what gives them the big wide door to talk to the jury about all these things that happened many, many years ago.
Now, is this a separate jury from the other charges? Is this a separate thing? Or are they going to hear all of it?
It's a separate, totally separate case. So whenever this one's done, however it turns out, then he'll go into trial on the other thing. And he's been in custody for 2 years, so he's not free to roam the country here. He's in custody, and he'll remain in custody, I would imagine, until both of these cases are over. So even if he wins this one, he still faces the other one.
Right, and that's not a good look, obviously, if you're out there trying to defend yourself, that you're already in custody for 2 years. But yeah, so there's this criminal enterprise that they're talking about. The studio was called the Chocolate Factory from 2004 to 2010, and so they're bringing in all these bodyguards, assistants, drivers, members of his entourage to sort of begin to paint this picture of what happened inside his sprawling home: an indoor jungle-themed pool, game room, boxing room, movie theater, room covered in mirrors, an aquarium containing sharks, a log cabin in the front yard, and 2 recording studios. I mean, Jesus. And so the real thing that we're learning about in this trial, Christopher, is this sort of Rob's rules, is what they call them. This protocol they said they had to follow if they were in a relationship with him or staying with him in his studio on the road. They must wear baggy clothes, don't make eye contact or speak with other men, and not to leave their room without permission. And there's examples of women who were like, couldn't even go to the bathroom for 2 days because I was waiting for permission. And so, again, here's that quote I wanted to make. It's so weird. His defense attorney claimed that, there were strict rules in part because he lived and worked in his building. And or where was it? Since he couldn't read or write, Mr. Kelly came up with melodies and songs in his head. His process as an artist is a very different process. And oftentimes he worked through the night. It's a weird defense to sort of justify this behavior, Christopher. Have you ever seen that one before?
Well, yeah. So this is the problem with celebrities, is that they're different. Yeah. They're maybe, brilliant and very creative, and they do things that the rest of us don't do. And that's probably why they're famous, because they're just so different than the rest of us. And when you get into their orbit or their world, it's easy, especially for a young person, to be thinking like, wow, this person does everything different. It's a little strange. I got these rules, but hey, they're R. Kelly. How can I deny that? And I'm going to go along with that. And then the next weird rule happens, and you're following that rule, and the third rule, and all of a sudden you're in this crazy world that you would have never imagined being in before. But it's all because you just think, well, this is maybe the way it should be. And it's that type of scenario that allows him then to move it beyond just a couple of maybe innocuous rules about here's the clothing you need to wear, or here's what you can ask me to do or not, to all of a sudden then doing these acts. And so I would imagine it's this grooming process, and everyone around him is all on the payroll. So they all want something too, and they're not dumb. They must realize what's going on. They must realize the ages. They must realize the lack of sophistication of these people coming into his home. They must realize what's exactly happening. And they're either in fear of being cut off, losing privileges with him, so they allow it to happen. So I hold them, the enablers, the people who were in his life that said nothing, equally responsible, because R. Kelly doesn't do this himself. He needs the entourage. He needs the people for help, and they are just as much responsible.
And that's part of maybe why the reasoning of the racketeering and the criminal business enterprise of exactly all these people are involved. And one last part I want to share, this girl came into the home, and she was placed in the mirror room, mirrors on the walls, ceilings. She had to wait 3 days in the mirror room to get permission to go to the bathroom. We were not able to leave out the rooms as part of the rules. They did not want them, pacing around the property. Now, the defense attorney has pointed out, well, that's a lie. The mirror room had a bathroom attached to it. Maybe they added one later. Who knows? But these types of accusations are really harsh. really gross. They weren't supposed to be wandering around, said. They had to get permission to do most things. They had to call down to the studio to get a hold of Rob if they wanted anything like food or things like that. This former worker recalled the unusual things he would see. He saw Kelly often sleeping on a tour bus, parked when he wasn't on tour. There were cameras in all the rooms, including the master bedroom. Kelly's defense did not respond directly to these allegations, but called one of them a self-proclaimed liar, is what happened there. But Christopher, as all this testimony comes forward, which there's a lot, and it's all painting a really disgusting picture, what are the odds that this can be pulled off as a racketeering charge? Do you think this will hold weight?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know that the racketeering thing makes a lot of sense here. Racketeering we're usually talking about the mob, right? I mean, we're not talking about R. Kelly doing what he's doing in his house. So I'm not sure that it fits exactly. We'll see what the jury feels about that, because certainly the conduct that we're seeing is it needs to be punished severely. But does it fit this definition of racketeering? It's a little odd. Obviously, prosecution had thought through what they were going to charge him with. To me, I think I wish they would have just gone in a more traditional route rather than taking what I think is more of a risky one. But hey, they know the case, they're smart, but we'll see. But even if he gets out of this one, he's acquitted of this one, he still faces the other one, the other charges that'll come after.
So maybe this is just a practice for them in a way. Let's do this one first so we can sort of get some of this stuff out, see what sticks, what doesn't. I mean, I'm looking at this too. It's like, here's another just bizarre R. Kelly thing, right? This assistant of his or whatever failed to secure a female tour guide at Disney World last minute, so the singer canceled after learning that it would be a male tour guide at the park. And so then he charged the employee an entire dock of pay and didn't get a paycheck that week because of his failure. Look, this is super weird and creepy, not illegal. You know what I mean? So it's like they're bringing in a lot of these things where it's like, just because the dude's crazy and awful, does that, that's where things get sort of hairy for me, of just like, will this actually play out? Will he see a punishment here? But I guess you're saying it, maybe not in this case. Maybe this is a test, if you will, and then hopefully they've armed themselves better to, shoot better shots the next round.
We don't know. I mean, this thing about docking the pay, I mean, that's certainly a violation of labor rules. But I guess what they're trying to establish here is this really controlling behavior and punitive behavior, because that's what these young ladies are saying is that if they didn't act the way that he wanted or followed Rob's rules, that they would be punished. And that's why they went along with it, because it's very easy as a defense attorney to say, hey, this was all. But to me, the fact that somebody isn't holding a gun to you doesn't mean that it's consensual. That there's manipulation, intimidation that happens that really takes this away from being voluntary.
Scary stuff indeed, and we will keep you updated as this trial progresses, but I wanted to start dipping into this so you guys could be aware that this is going to be an intense continuation of this trial. There's more to come. Overall, do you think he's in trouble? I mean, based off what we're seeing so far, that he's going to get some time?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's already done the 2 years in custody waiting for this one, and it's rough because he's got back-to-back trials he's going to be going under. So I got to think something's going to stick with all these charges, and they're all super serious. So if one charge sticks, he's away for 20 years, I would think.
Well, there you go, and that's part of the reasons of why we've made our opinion on this man. Curious what you guys think. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of R. Kelly fans hating on me, but hey, that's what we do here. We say what we think. We try to give the benefit of the doubt, but in this case, I've read enough that I'm not a fan of this guy. It's sad, too, because I really love I Believe I Can Fly. The dude has some great songs. It's another awkward thing when you find a monster like this. Do you still play the songs? What do you do? Tell me down in the comments below. I want your thoughts. Christopher, always happy to have you here. Check out Christopher's YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the description as well. Go support him. Looking forward to doing more with him. And we'll be live in, September 29th, correct? Wednesday, September 9th at Brittany's Hearing. We'll be doing a big event there, so make sure you stay tuned. Christopher, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Andy.
Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for all alerts. Smash that like button and stay tuned for more coverage here on Popcorned Planet.